world, dear Lord, and that people see us and see the work that we've been putting in and that they experience you through. So, God, we love you, we praise you, thank you. It's in your name we pray. Amen. All right. Starting off tonight, last series of the year. I'm really excited about this series, and before I even get into it, I want to tell you guys about a moment when I was younger where I got extremely embarrassed, all because I misunderstood the meaning of one word. Okay, before I even go into it, have you all ever misunderstood a word or a phrase and like it ended up being an embarrassing moment? Have you guys ever had that? Okay, cool. So I have 3 sisters, 2 older, 1 younger. They're all married and having kids now and all that stuff, but growing up, anytime a guy wanted to date one of my sisters, they had to go through this really strict process. Okay, my dad was super protective of my sisters, and if a guy wanted to date one of my sisters, they had to sit down and have a one-on-one lunch with my dad before they could ever go on a date with my sister. Okay, on top of that, my parents were also pretty, strict with us about our dating and our culture with that stuff. They wanted us to wait to date one-on-one until we were mature enough to do it and until we could drive, because they're like, we're not driving you at all your dates, so you can officially date when you're 16. That was my parents' rule. Before then, if you have someone that you like and all that stuff, that's great. Okay, you can call them your boyfriend and girlfriend and all that stuff, but you can only hang out together with our family or with friends. You can't go on one-on-one dates. That was their rule, okay? So my sister Madison, the one right above me, she's a freshman. She's 14 years old. She's a freshman in high school, and she has a little crush on this guy named Zeke, and Zeke likes Madison back, okay? Now, Zeke wants to date my sister, but he has to go through the whole 9 yards. He goes and has lunch with my dad one-on-one, and my dad interrogates him and all this stuff, and they start talking, but obviously they can't go on one-on-one dates, so Zeke starts hanging out with my family a lot, which I love because I didn't have any brothers, and so now I have a brother and Zeke, and he's at our house all the time, and it's been great. A few months go by, they're still hanging out and talking, and Zeke's at our house a lot, hanging out with our family, and that's pretty much it. They don't have a lot of alone time, and so that's kind of how it was going. Well, one day, we find out that my sister Madison has a staph infection, okay? If you don't know what staph infection is, it's a pretty common thing, okay? I don't know the science behind it. I think it's a bacteria or a virus or whatever, but it's really common, especially in athletes. You get in like locker rooms a lot or whatever. And my sister was an athlete. She was a gymnast, and so she got it. Nothing big, no big deal at all. I didn't know that. I thought that staph infection was an STD. I thought it was a sexually transmitted disease, okay? So my sister gets an STD, and I'm freaking out because I'm like, couple things. First of all, Madison and Zeke aren't even supposed to have alone time at all, let alone be having sex. We know we're supposed to wait until marriage to have sex. We grew up in the church, so like that's bad enough. That's bad enough in my parents' view. And then on top of that, they're not even supposed to be hanging out alone. Clearly they are because they've been having sex. She has an STD. Then I'm thinking, is Madison okay? Is this one of those STDs that's like going to kill her, or is she fine? And then I'm thinking through, my dad's going to be furious. Like is he going to kill Zeke? Is he going to kick Maddie out of the house? Is he going to do both? When's it going to happen? And so my mind is going a mile a minute. I'm freaking out about it. And it's kind of one of those situations, I don't know if you've ever had this, where you're scared to like be a part of it because you know it's going to go bad, but you also can't help but watch. So I'm like kind of like I don't want Maddie to get in trouble, but I'm also curious to see how this goes. And so about a week and a half goes by and nothing happens. Nothing happens. Madison, my parents are actually super like supportive of Maddie, like how you feeling, how you doing, are you taking your medicine, all this stuff. And Zeke is still at our house and still talking to Maddie, and they're not mad. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And it changed my view on all the rules that my parents had given us, because I'm like, I guess we can just break it and not get in trouble. It changed my view on dating and sex and my sister and he's now my brother-in-law, but at the time he was just this guy, and I'm just like going crazy. And so a week and a half goes by, nothing happens. I'm in the car with my mom. I'm like, Mom, why are you not mad at Maddie and Zeke? Why are you guys not flipping out? She's like, why would I be mad? It's like, well, because they're having sex. My mom's like, what? I was like, yeah, like, why are you surprised? She has staph. And my mom's like, what? And she explains to me, staph is not an STD, and I'm so embarrassed. My mom thinks it's hilarious. She tells the whole family. She tells like all my friends' parents, and it's like the greatest thing. And all my friends are like, you thought staph was an STD, and great. My sister's like, how dare you like not even say anything for a week and a half? By the way, like you just like, and it just. Honestly, it was super embarrassing for me, but it also really changed my view that I had on a lot of things, all because I misunderstood the meaning of one little word, right? Have you guys ever had that before? A couple of you guys? Hopefully not, where you mistook an STD for something else, but like you didn't understand this word or phrase, right? I feel like that happens a lot. Another one that I always misunderstood was, you ever heard the phrase like chuck it? Like you can throw something really far, like I chuck it or just throw it away. You know what I'm talking about? My whole life I thought it was chunk it. I just thought it was chunk it. I don't know why. I know Addie, her phrase, have you ever heard the phrase play it by ear? Yes. She says play it by year. She thought it was like, every year, play it by year anyway. I don't know, just like random phrases all the time we misunderstand. And sometimes it's not that big of a deal, right? Sometimes you just end up looking really stupid and you're embarrassed by it. Sometimes, though, it can change your view on people, on the world around you, on yourself. It can change the way that you act. It can change the thought process that you have. A lot of different things like that. It really can affect you. Sometimes, even in the worst case scenario, it can mean the difference between life and death. It's really important that we understand the things that we're saying. And believe it or not, there are a lot of phrases like that that are misquoted and misused and misunderstood that come straight from the Bible. Phrases that we use all the time. Probably as I listed out some of these phrases, you would know right away. Some of them you've heard, some of them you say, some of them are principles that you live your life by. And in this series, we're actually going to break down some of those phrases, okay? So tonight, for instance, have you guys ever heard the phrase, an eye for an eye? Has anyone ever heard that phrase? What does an eye for an eye mean? What does an eye for an eye mean? Charlie, yell it out. Beautiful. Revenge, retaliation, getting even. If he does this to me, I'm going to do the same thing to him, kind of thing like that. Does that make sense? Eye for an eye? Eye for an eye? That's a phrase that actually comes from the Bible. That is from the Bible. And I'm going to show you a couple situations. We see it 3 times in the Old Testament where God actually told us to use this principle of an eye for an eye. But when he told us about it, when he gave this instruction to us, it was in a very specific and unique scenario. He says, treat other people with an eye for an eye in these unique situations. The first one we see is in Exodus. Okay, and in Exodus, what's going on is God is giving the Israelites, he's giving his people a lot of rules and regulations and laws because they don't have that. And so he's trying to kind of teach them how to handle these situations. And the first time we see this eye for an eye be used from God is in Exodus, okay, 21, 22 through 25. So he says this, now if people struggle with each other and they strike a pregnant woman so that she gives birth prematurely, if there's no injury, the guilty person should be fined as the woman's husband may demand, or shall pay as the judges decide. But if there is further injury to the baby, then you shall appoint as a penalty a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, and bruise for bruise. So in this moment, the first time that we see God give us an example of when we should go eye to eye, eye for an eye, is actually in a situation where a woman is hit or struck and she gives birth prematurely and the baby dies. It's actually a verse about abortion. Okay? A lot of people think abortion is not in the Bible. A lot of people think God doesn't care about abortion. We can do whatever we want. It's actually not. God cares about it so much that he actually says, to abort a baby, I view that as murder, and the penalty for doing that is that you should lose your life. That's actually how serious God takes it. And in this one situation, God says, one of the unique examples that you should ever use an eye for an eye towards another person is if you kill an unborn baby by hitting a woman. Okay? The next 2 scenarios that we see in the Old Testament, they're pretty similar to each other, so I'm just going to read one of them, but it's in Deuteronomy and Leviticus, okay? And again, this is a very unique situation where God gives us a reason to use the eye for an eye concept, okay? Deuteronomy 19, 15 through 21. One witness cannot establish an iniquity or sin against a person, whatever the person has done. A fact must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. In other words, God's basically saying, hey, you can't accuse someone of something by yourself. I don't want it, one person's word against the other. I want there to be witnesses, and I want you to go before judges. Look, he says, if a malicious witness testifies against someone accusing him of a crime, the 2 people in dispute are to stand in the presence of the Lord before the priests and the judges in authority at the time. The judges are to make a careful investigation. Okay, so in other words, go before a court, get witnesses, go to the judges, go to the priests, go to the people in authority, and have an investigation be done in the arguments that you're having, okay? If the witness turns out to be a liar who has falsely accused his brother, you must do to him as he intended to do to his brother. You must purge the evil from you. Then everyone else will hear and be afraid, and they will never again do anything like this among you. Don't show pity. Have life for life, an eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Again, it's a very unique example where God says, If there is someone accusing someone else of a crime, go before the judge. There should be a judge present, priest present. There should be an investigation into the case. And if someone is falsely accusing someone else, then use this punishment of an eye for an eye, okay? And those are the only times in the Old Testament, and really the entire Bible, that we see God tell us that it is okay to use this approach towards people. It's the only time we see God say it is okay to use this approach of an eye for an eye, of revenge, of getting even. It's the only case. So if we are not a woman who's been struck and lost our baby because of it, and if we are not in a legal case in the presence of a judge, we are not called to use this approach of an eye for an eye, okay? But here's where we get it wrong. We view this principle as something that just applies to all relationships and all people. We see a very unique and specific example right there of when it's okay to do it, but we take that an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth and getting even, that revenge, and we just apply it to all of our friendships and people in our life. If you hurt my feelings, I'm going to hurt your feelings. If you're mean to me, I'm going to be mean to you. If you spread a rumor about me, I'm going to spread a rumor about you. If you cheated on me, guess what? I'm going to sleep with your friend. It's just like we go back and forth and we get even and we get revenge, and it's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and it's a principle that we live by. And I hear it said a lot of like, what did they do to you? Okay, you do it back. And it's become a problem in our culture. And guess what? It became a problem in this culture as well. Where God gave them this idea, this concept of like, this is the only case, only scenario we can use this, but they took it and they just applied it to everything, and it got way out of hand. And so when Jesus got there, guess what? He addressed it. He addressed the issue. He addresses it to their culture, and he addresses it to our culture. Look at Matthew 5, 38 through 41. This is Jesus speaking. He said, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. To stop right there, he's basically saying, you've heard this phrase before. You've heard this concept. You've been living it out. Culture tells you, treat people with an eye for an eye. Culture tells you that revenge is a good thing. And guys, can we be honest? Our culture tells us that it is a good thing, that that's how we should handle conflict, of revenge. Okay, revenge is everywhere. I can't tell you how many movies and TV shows and songs are about revenge and getting even and getting back. Addie told me, I'm so out of culture, I didn't even know it, but apparently Olivia Rodrigo's ex-boyfriend has a song about it, something like that. It literally says an eye for an eye in the song, but literally it's everywhere. All throughout our culture, this concept of revenge and getting even and having an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and if they do this to me, I got to do that for them, and back and forth. And that's what our culture says. And Jesus is like, you've heard this phrase, you've lived out this concept, you've seen this be done, but then look what he says. But I say to you, don't resist the one who's evil, but if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other one to him as well. If anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. In other words, Jesus comes in, he's like, you've heard this concept of getting even and getting revenge and an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth and getting back at that person. And if they treat you bad, you treat them bad. You've heard it. You've seen it. Culture is telling you to do this way, but I have something different for you. I have something better for you. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be beneficial. It's to not treat people the way that they treat you. It's to not get revenge. It's to not get even. It's to do something completely different. And so many of us will go through life and we'll have relationships where people wrong us. Parents, brothers and sisters, friends, classmates, teammates, bosses, co-workers, whoever it is, we'll have people that wrong us. And our mentality is to, you know what, I'm going to get even. And guess what, guys? That temptation is even going to come into the people that you care the most about. If I'm being honest, like, that will follow you into marriage, right? Jordan and I have these little things that bug us about each other. She doesn't close the drawers all the way. Drives me up a wall. She'll literally she'll pull out the drawer with the toothpaste, she'll brush her teeth, put the toothpaste back in, and then she'll half close it, and it'll just be open. And I don't know why it bugs me so much, but it drives me crazy. And if I walk into the bathroom and I see that drawer halfway open, my temptation is actually going to be, believe it or not, this is how petty we are in nature, is, you know what, I'm not going to put the toilet seat down. I'm going to show her, if she doesn't do the thing that I want, I'm going to do the thing that she doesn't want. Now, I don't do that, but that is where my mind goes a lot of times. That's going to happen even with the people that you care the most about, because our nature tells us an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Let's get even, let's have revenge. But Jesus shows us right here there's a way better approach. It will give you power over the things that people do to you. Okay, it will empower you to overcome those things, and it'll give you a chance not to stoop to that level. It'll give you a chance to be the better person, okay? Also, by the way, this is a great way to show people the love of Jesus. We're going to be able to do the things that Jesus listed out and show people what it means to be loved the way that God loves us by the way that we respond to them, okay? So when people wrong us, when people hurt us, when people attack us, when they mistreat us, whatever it is, our tendency is to get revenge, to get even. But Jesus shows us right here a few things that we can do that are so counterculture, that are so different, but they're so important to do. And the first thing that he mentions in this verse right here, he says, don't get even, don't go eye for an eye, don't fight them, forgive them. Don't fight them, forgive them. And our culture will never tell you to do that because they don't deserve it. And they'll say, if you forgive them, you're setting yourself up to get abused even more. If you forgive them, you're letting them get away with something. If you forgive them, you're letting them have power over you. That's not the case. Jesus says, hey, don't fight them, forgive them. That's what he says in the very first verse, in verse 39. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other cheek as well. That's actually a common phrase that we hear in this world a lot as well that we don't realize comes from the Bible. Turn the other cheek. Turn the other cheek. Now, what does that mean? Is God telling us that we need to allow ourselves to be abused? No. Is he telling us that we can't defend ourselves? No. But he is saying the way to defend yourself is not to retaliate. It's not to fight back in the same way. It's actually to forgive them. So when you defend yourself, it's not about returning the favor and getting even. Okay, you can defend yourself by one, going to God. Okay, finding shelter in God. We're going to see in just a second that God does actually avenge us. Okay, so you can take confidence that you can go to God for shelter. You can also, by the way, get better friends. If you've got friends that are constantly hurting you and abusing you, you can set up defenses and you can get some friends who don't treat you like that. That is okay. You're hearing it from me that you can find some better friends if you need to. But then also, lastly, build up confidence in yourself, and some of these attacks just fall short. If I'm attacked in an area that I'm insensitive about, it's going to hurt. But if I go to God and I know my identity and I know who I am and I know my struggles, but I'm not ashamed of them, you can't say anything against me. Hey, Sawyer, you're a poor leader. You know what? I'm not the best leader in the world, but I know that God made me be a leader, and I'm working hard at it every single day, so those words don't bother me. It doesn't bother me, right? So work on your insecurities in the Lord and find defense in him, and you won't even have to retaliate. You won't even have to fight back. I think a lot of the reasons that we tend to want to fight back is because we're insecure. We work our securities in the Lord. Malia wants to clap. You guys can clap. Thank you. But God's like, don't fight them, forgive them. Look what he says in Romans 12, 17 through 19. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. I love that right there, that he's like, hey, it's not going to be possible to have peace across the world because other people are going to attack you, but it is possible for you to seek out peace. If it's in your control, you can seek out peace. You might not be able to stop them from attacking you, but you can stop yourself from attacking back, right? So within your control, you seek out peace. But then he says this, beloved, never avenge yourself, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, and I will repay, says the Lord. Never avenge yourself. Never get attacked by someone and say, I'm going to get even. I'm going to get back. I'm going to pay an eye for an eye. I'm going to do the same thing to them. I'm going to hurt them. I'm going to spread a rumor about them. I'm going to do this because they did this to me. Never do that. Why? Because it says that God will avenge us. Our job is not to fight them, it's to forgive them. It's to turn the other cheek. No, you don't have to set yourself up to be attacked even more. But yes, you have power and authority over the words that they say and the actions that they do towards you by turning the other cheek, by forgiving them and not fighting them. Does that make sense? Everyone with me so far? The second thing that Jesus shows us right here, he says, hey, I know you've heard it say an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I know you've seen this revenge culture. But the first thing you understand, don't fight them, forgive them. The second thing I want you to do, don't be greedy, be generous. Verse 40, if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. I love this one. I love this one. Okay, before I even get into it, do you guys think that Jesus is really only speaking about clothes and money? I firmly believe that even if we don't have a single dollar in our pocket, we can be extremely selfish or extremely selfless, extremely greedy or extremely generous. Why? Because we all have things within us that are from God that he is called to use as an offering to him and also towards other people. Look at 1 Peter 4:10. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. If you're in this room and you don't know this, you have gifts and abilities that are from God. Some of you here are kind people. Some of you are gentle people. That's something that my wife is so good at. I love it about her. She is such a gentle and kind person. She wants to help people, and a lot of people in her life have tried to take advantage of her, and I hate it because she is so gentle and so kind towards people. Some of you in here are extremely joyful. Some of you here are extremely patient. Some of you are extremely intentional. That's an awesome thing. I struggle with intentionality. Some of you guys are so good and natural at just being intentional and checking in with people and pursuing them. Some of you in here are very forgiving. Guys, those are gifts from God. But our tendency is to only use those gifts with the people that we think deserve those gifts. But what Jesus says right here is this: we're not called to be greedy with those gifts, even to the people who don't deserve those gifts. And by the way, I think this shows true generosity. I can be kind to the person who's kind to me, but it's really hard to be kind to the person who has just attacked me. But that shows true generosity, because that's not easy to do. So here's my question to you. What do you have in your arsenal? What gifts do you have? What traits do you have that benefit people that you've been greedy with, that you've been withholding from someone? You've been kind and friendly and intentional to your friends and family, but you probably have some people in your mind that you're thinking, I have never shown generosity with my gifts toward that person because they don't deserve it. But Jesus shows us right here, that is true generosity. And that's the way to respond when someone wrongs us. To forgive them, and then to be generous with them. True generosity comes in those moments. And I challenge you guys, ask yourself, what are the things within myself that I've been greedy with? And who have I been greedy towards? Who can I be generous towards? Who can I go out and show my kindness and show forgiveness and show intentionality that might not deserve it, but they probably need it? In fact, by the way, a lot of times the reason that people mistreat other people is because they've been mistreated. So what if they're mistreating you because they don't know any other way? And for you to show them kindness, even though they don't deserve it, it's going to blow their mind because they've never seen that before. They didn't know that was a thing. I was in a life group last night. We had someone in our life group talk about how they had a friend in school who was gay. And they actually showed them intentionality and kindness and love. Even though they knew that homosexuality was a sin, they pursued that person. They invited that person to church. They asked them how they were doing. They were kind to them. And that person actually got mad. Was like, why are you so nice to me? I know that you're a Christian. She's like, well, because I love you. And because God loves you. And that person had never experienced a Christian show them kindness before once they came out of the closet. Because of that, the door was open for that person to come and experience Jesus. You never know what someone is going through, that they've been so closed off to God before because they've never experienced a Christian come and be generous with their gifts towards them. So ask yourself, thank you, ask yourself, what have I been greedy with? And who do I need to be generous to? So Jesus says, hey, it's not an eye for an eye. When someone wrongs you, when someone hurts you, forgive them, don't fight them. Be generous, not greedy. And then the third thing he says right here, don't just do enough, do more than enough. Do more than enough. Verse 41, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go 2 miles. If someone says go 1 mile, don't just do enough. Don't just go the mile, go 2 miles with them. This is one of my favorite ones right here. This is something that my dad always taught me, of go above and beyond. Do more than what's asked of you. This is such a great opportunity. And here's the difference. I think I'll see a lot of Christians do just enough. They'll hear that we're supposed to be kind and forgiving and loving towards people. And so when someone comes up to them and when the opportunity faces them, some Christians will take advantage of it. That's great. But that's just enough. Doing more than enough might look like seeking out the opportunity to be kind and generous. Right? For us, a lot of it might be we might have some people in our mind that we need to be kind to, we need to be forgiven to, we need to be generous to. And we have a class with them, and we'll cross their path randomly throughout the day. We'll say hey to them. We'll say, oh, good to see you, whatever. Like your shoes, so cool, whatever. That's enough. But when was the last time you went out of your way to pursue a relationship with that person? When was the last time you texted them on your own and say, hey, haven't talked to you in a while. How are you doing? How's your family doing? How can I pray for you? Someone did that for me this week, just today. There's a person who, by the way, if I'm being honest, I've struggled with bitterness towards because they hurt me in college. And in my mind, I had forgiven them. In my heart, I thought that I had forgiven. But then he texted me and said, hey, anything I could pray for you, man? It's the first time I've heard from him since college. Blew my mind this morning. You never know who's having a hard time with you or with their family or in their life, and just by you reaching out to them and going out of your way to go above and beyond to do more than just enough could make all the difference. And by the way, that shows your genuine heart. I ask my team to do that a lot. They come on a Tuesday night, they know their role. They know, my job is to set up chairs, to tear down. My job is to lead the sophomore life group. My job is to do this or that, whatever. And that's great. Know your role and do that, okay? But I always ask them, hey, if you see something out of place, don't just say, well, that's not my job. Deal with it. If you see a student hating alone, don't say, well, that's a junior. I'm in charge of sophomores. No, go and talk to that kid. Go and sit with that person. Go and ask those kids to stop being distracting towards the other kids. That's why you'll see random leaders come up and tap you on the shoulder, not because they're mad at you, but because I've asked them to deal with that, to go above and beyond, not just to do their job, but to do more than what's asked of them. Okay? So my challenge to you is this week, look for the people who have wronged you and look for opportunities not to fight them, but to forgive them. Not to be greedy with what you have, to be generous, and then not just to do enough, but to do more than enough. And by the way, that's what Jesus did. Jesus did more than enough. Okay? Can I tell you that Jesus dying on the cross for us was enough? It was enough. He dies on the cross, he pays the penalty for our sin, and you and I, we get to go to heaven. That's enough. But I'm going to read this excerpt right here from Luke. Ben can go ahead and come on up, by the way. I'm going to read this, and this is the last moment of Jesus. These are the last moments that Jesus has alive on this earth. All he has to do is die, is to end his pain and misery, and it's enough. He's done his job. But Jesus doesn't stop there. He goes above and beyond. He does more than enough. I'm going to read this passage. I want you to think about it. Luke 23, 33 through 38. When they came to the place called the Skull, they would crucify him, and the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. And Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they cast lots to divide his garments, and the people stood by watching. But the rulers scoffed him, saying, He saved others. Let him save himself if he's the Christ of God, his chosen one. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine, and saying, If you're the king of the Jews, save yourself. And above him there was an inscription saying, This is the King of the Jews. So in this moment, Jesus is on the cross. He's in pain. He's been whipped so much that he's unrecognizable. He's been stripped naked. He has a crown of thorns on his head. He's suffering. Every breath that he's taking is painful. He has to rub his back on the splintered cross for us. It's brutal. And he has done his job. He dies, and we get to go to heaven. And he can see the people. He can see his family and his friends crying and weeping and hating that he has to go through it. And that's who he's doing it for. And he knows his job is to save the people who love him. But he doesn't stop there. He says, God, I don't want you just to forgive the people who are mourning for me. I want you to forgive the very people that are gambling over my clothes. The very people who are mocking me and calling me names. The very people who have stripped me down and beaten me and nailed me to this cross. I don't want you just to save those people, God. I want to save those people as well. I don't want to just do enough. I want to do more than enough. I don't want to just be kind and generous to the people who are kind and generous to me. I want to be kind and generous to the people who are not kind and generous to me. To the people who mock me, abuse me, hurt me, tear me down, literally crucify me. I don't want to just save the people who are kind. I want to save those people as well. And Jesus shows us that there is a difference between surface level kindness and true kindness. Surface level forgiveness and real forgiveness. There's a difference between the person who lives through the concept of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth and the person who says, no, I'm going to turn the other cheek. I'm not going to fight them. I'm going to forgive them. I'm not going to be greedy. I'm going to be generous. I'm not going to do just what's asked of me. I'm going to do even more, because that shows genuine love and genuine kindness. And you know what I would love for you guys to be? I would love for you guys to be the people that went the extra mile. Say, why is that person so kind to me? I've never done anything for them. Why does that person check in on me? Why does that person ask me how I'm doing? Why did that person remember my name? Why does that person go out of their way to be kind to me? Because there's something different about the people at HSN, because we have the love of Jesus inside of us. We have the love of the Lord who did the very same thing for us. So I challenge you guys to do the same thing. And so what I'm going to do tonight is this. I want to end, actually, by praying over you and empowering you to do this, because this is not an easy thing. It is not easy to go out and to treat people like this, to turn the other cheek, to forgive and not fight, to be generous and not greedy, to go the extra mile. It's not easy, but I want to pray that you have the ability to do it. But then after that, I want to invite you to experience that kind of love. Because there are some people in here who feel like God treats them eye for an eye. Well, I've messed up, so God's going to ignore me. I've sinned here, so God's going to punish me there. But Jesus showed us that it's not about just forgiving the people who are worthy of it, because guess what? No one's worthy of it. It's about forgiving and loving and accepting the people who aren't worthy of it either. And I think there's some people in here tonight who need to experience that. So if you will, I want everyone to go ahead and bow their heads and close their eyes, and I want to pray over you. If you don't even mind, if you're confident enough to just open up your hands and receive this prayer, I'm going to ask for God to empower us to love people this way. That God, right now, I pray that you are with us, that every single person here at HSM experiences your love tonight. I pray that you empower us to not live through the lens of an eye for an eye, but rather to turn the other cheek, to forgive instead of fighting, to be generous instead of greedy, and to not just do enough to get by, but to do more than enough. I pray that you give us the patience, you give us the strength, you give us the resilience, you give us the toughness, you give us the love and the mercy, the empathy to be able to treat others the way, Jesus, that you treated us. Even when they don't deserve it, even when they've wronged us, to be able to forgive them, to love them, to be kind towards them. Give us that ability. And right now, with no one looking around, I want to invite you to receive that love, that unconditional, that forgiving, that kind love that we don't deserve. We've messed up again and again and again. But I want you to be able to receive the love that Jesus offers. It's for you. All you have to do is say yes to it. So no one's looking around right now. If you're ready to say that prayer, if you're ready to receive that kind of love, can you just show me your hand? Can I see who I'm praying with? I see you right there. See you guys, yeah. See you guys, thank you. I see you right there, yeah. Thank you guys, see you. Thank you guys, thank you, I see you right there. Okay, if you raised your hand, I want you to say this prayer with me. You can say it under your breath. I just want you to mean it. Say it to God. Say, God, I need you. I'm not worthy of your love, but I want it. I know that you died for me. Please forgive me. Give me a new life. Show me what it means to be loved and accepted. And help me to do the same to the people around me. Help me to be more like you. Change me from the inside out. I say yes to you. And it's in your name that I pray. Amen. Hey, can we give it up for anyone who said that prayer tonight? Hey, if you said that prayer, you've received the love that Jesus offered you when he died on that cross. We didn't deserve it. We didn't earn it, but it's for you and you just received it. And let me tell you something, that changes your life. Changes your life. 2 Corinthians 5